Hello, this is Marshall from MB Drift, here with Zach Sabal, my homie, my partner in crime. What's up?
How's
everybody doing tonight?
Chilling, man. Just hanging out. It's raining here in Myrtle Beach. We're all staying inside, so it's kind of nice to get out of the house, come over, hang out.
Cool, definitely. Appreciate that. Good seeing you again, sir. And we also have a special guest with us tonight.
Yes, we do. Who is
Mr.
that?
Devin Crezee is in the house.
Devin.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, man?
Well, just hanging out.
Yes, feels good to get out of the house, doesn't it?
He's our reasonable neighbor. He's not too far away, so.
Yeah, we're going a little crazy with this quarantine, sitting at home all the time. So, it feels good to get out and see people.
You and the rest of us are the same way.
Yeah, most definitely.
Anyway, so we wanted to do just a little introduction for ourselves. So I'm Marshall Eggerling. I started MB Drift back in 2005 with my homie Jeff Kite at the time. He and I got approached by Bill Hennessy from the Speedway, the general manager at that time. And so we, Jeff and I were already doing drift events in other areas. We were traveling 9 months out of the year to Atlanta to do our drifting at the time. And Bill Hennessy, the general manager of the Speedway at that time, he approached us, saying that he wanted to try to get us, because he knew that we were doing, drift events and had that a little bit of experience. He wanted us to help him run events at the Speedway and help get those kids off the streets and get them in a controlled environment.
I was one of those kids, Marshall.
Yes, sir. I was as well, so my street drifting, I regret it. I did a little bit of that. But mine was back in 2002. Yes, I'm old. I know that. But 2001, somewhere in there. And so we started doing that a little bit, hit a little corner here and there. And we even had some connection to an Umbro factory back in the day. First official drift event, kind of like Team Drift MB back then. It was reversed. And so we did an event just our team members. We got off the street, we did it in a parking lot, we did it in an old Umbro factory. Videos from the time, people said it looked like the war in Kosovo, but because it was a little outdated and weeds were going through the cracks and all that stuff, but we were trying to figure it out. We were having a good time, enjoying our cars, and we were doing what we could. So then we started traveling to Atlanta when we figured out organized events were the way to go. And then we did that for about 3 years before we got approached by Bill Hennessy to start doing drift events at the Myrtle Beach Speedway. So I've been doing it a long time. I know I'm old, but hey, I bring a lot of experience to the environment, so we've been having a good time for a long time. So, Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you've done?
I was one of those kids that was on the streets. At that time, I wasn't technically drifting. I was a front-wheel drive guy.
That's
so
right.
I had, street racing and stuff.
I had an encounter with you on the street one time.
Yes, I believe we did.
You busted my ass, and I was surprised. I didn't get enough throttle that I thought I should have. I was like, Grandma's protege ain't going to take much. I'll just do 50% throttle, and that was not enough. Hello.
All right, for that, I had a 1994 Mazda Protege with a JDM swap, which is out of a 323 GTR. Basically, it was a rally car. They only made like 2,500 of them, and I would run 20 pounds daily on the street. One tire fire running. I was running like a 205 tire, so whatever grip that would give me. But it was a highway machine. So
busted my ass for sure.
Yeah, along with that, I was like, oh, all right. And then I was friends with another drifter in our community who's done a lot for MB Drift and is now doing Catch My Drift, Joe Gorseski. I became friends with him through a mutual friend, and then he started getting into drifting, which I knew about drifting before. Another guy that drifted with us, Jason Richards, and I, we used to play like Gran Turismo and video games and stuff like that. And we would drift and take our cars out on dirt roads and slide them sideways and stuff like that. So it wasn't something that was unfamiliar to me. It was just something new that I'd never done. So coming there, we had with the Wednesday night drift and drags. Whenever you guys started MB Drift, we'd come there and do drag racing on the front stretch. So, I would drive on the front stretch, just kind of ride with everybody
Yeah,
and
that's
kind of
right,
like playing video games and being in the car drifting. Man, I was like, wow, this is something I want to do because I've gotten in trouble on the street. So it was kind of a transition to another form of racing that I could beat my car up and just see like, hey, is what I built going to hang together and stay together, and can it do what I want it to do? So it was kind of like, can I do this kind of thing? Can you build a car, and can you trust yourself and learn everything?
Plus, it's just fun,
Yeah. So that's where it was at. I was like, man, one day I was talking to a friend of ours and picked up a car, got it, 240. I got it for $300, man.
Good deal.
And then
Heck yeah.
just kind of built it from there. Did a drift event, Myrtle Beach Speedway, went out to Darlington, and then after that, just kind of been drifting.
You came to MB Drift and spectated pretty much since the very beginning.
Man,
right?
for a long time.
Like Joe G came and was like, he participated very early on, from the very beginning, and you were there.
I was his ride or die, man. I was his pit crew. I was the dude that was pitting. I did pit crew for him.
That's how I met both of you guys.
And all that stuff. Yeah, so that's where we came out.
Outside of the streets that one time.
Yeah, outside.
That was our first encounter.
Because
I thought my KA with stock block and running 7 pounds of boost was something, and you showed me what was up.
Yeah, and ironically enough, that's what I'm running now, is a stock block KA with 10 pounds of boost.
There you go.
But it was kind of with that, man. Got into the scene, started watching drifting, and it was I picked up my first 240, and it was something that I really thought that, hey man, I could do. Now, granted, with a lot of us, you get into the car, you build a drift car, you crashed it a few times, but after that, the way
happens. Mine has been crashed a lot of times because I've had the same drift car for 15 plus years. So mine's wrecked probably a few minor times and a few major times, but I've certainly tried to keep it alive and
I had my first drift car, crashed it. Learning the drift, I hit the wall front end wise, because that's one of those things you learn. Hey, when in doubt, throttle out, and I slammed on the brakes, went right into the wall. But if I would have,
if you don't hit the wall, you're not pushing it eventually.
Well, and that's the way I look at it too. If you don't crash and make hiccups, then you're just playing it safe and you're not pushing yourself. So even with I had that chassis, tube fronted it, and then we were moving out shops, and I had another chassis that I had acquired that was a lot cleaner. So I was like, oh man, so I sold off the first chassis. Didn't really need to, but sold it off just because I had nowhere to keep it.
Yeah.
So sold off that, moved in the next chassis, and then it's crashed too.
Welcome to the club, sir.
Yeah, and you're banging the wall all day, and then you get going, and it starts tearing up your rear end, and then in my case, next thing I know, the actual stock bumper support wedged into the guardrail where it overlapped.
Wow.
Caught in there, ripped the whole thing off, slung me into the wall.
Oh, yeah.
The classic.
That's the
rear end
worst,
back into the front. So, but yeah, that's kind of my story in the drifting, was just kind of watching everything go down, hanging out with Joe G.
Always been in the car scene. I know you.
Yeah, and I've been in the car scene since like 96, 97.
On the drag racing side, the import drag racing, and the drifting, you've really come a long way and kept yourself immersed in all of those scenes.
Yeah,
the car show scene and all that too.
Once they say, once a car dude, always a car dude. It's kind of one of those things. Unless you have like, I don't have a family or nothing, so I don't have any kids or nothing like that. Yeah. So it kind of keeps me. I'm sure if I
miss being able to have the daily driver car, or at least the car that I can take to meets and things like that. Because the streets, they're doing a lot of great car meets.
Oh yeah, a lot of great car meets.
So
that's where
I really miss that.
That's where I'm fortunate enough to have the vert. I can kind of drive out to the car meets and stuff like that. And not only is it cool to drive around, but also it kind of keeps me familiar with the 240 chassis.
Yeah.
So that way, let's be honest. The only time I fire up my drift car is to put it on the trailer once a month to come out. So it's kind of, kind of keeps me in practice with that. So.
Heck yeah. Zach brings a lot of perspective of the car scene and everything else to MB Drift, and I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, it's kind of an outside thing, you know.
You know, Joe G and Nate have kind of branched off to doing their own thing, you know, so you and I have kind of taken control of the reins. And so I really appreciate what you've done to add value to MB Drift. So
Well, I appreciate
really
it, Marshall. You're kind of I feel like you're the bread and butter of this. You kind of keep everything together, and I feel like more of the guy that gives opinions and kind of makes calls on what I think we should do. So, you know, I appreciate you. Just
and we're trying to fix our cars up and make them prettier to an extent, and we're trying to have a better presentation and get out in the environment, you know, the car environment, and try to display our cars a little bit more and try to promote MB Drift, you know, a little bit more than we have in years past.
I know I put some tax money into getting my car looking good. You know, want to represent MB Drift well, especially, you know, traveling outside of events and stuff like that. Enough about me, man.
Zach, all right. So we do have a third person here. So let's hear a little about him. Devin Crezee. He is one of our buddies. He is coming to a lot of our events. He doesn't live too far away, so that's convenient for this podcast, you know, as far as that's concerned. But, you know, we love all of your input. You've certainly got a super technical mind and everything like that.
A lot of knowledge and different
a lot of different experience.
Like we mentioned before on live feeds, it's kind of like Marshall and I, well, you know, Marshall knows like Atlanta Drift and Myrtle Beach Drift.
Yeah.
I only know, besides like traveling with Pro-Am events with Joe G and stuff, but we were pitting, so we were kind of busy. But I only know MB Drift and a little bit of Piedmont Drift. This guy's been around. He knows a lot of different organizations, been through a lot of different, you know, just...
A lot of areas, you know.
Yeah, a lot of areas,
several
a lot of
different parts of the country.
Like that, so...
Yeah, it's
a lot of knowledge.
So now we'll let Devin, you know, give us some of his history and some of his experience as well, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
All right, so I'm Devin. You can find me on all the social medias, Dr. Garage, also on YouTube. I've been putting together a bunch of, you know, I drift an 88.6, so I put a bunch of 88.6 videos out there, but I'm trying to get into some more just basic drift videos. But I've been involved with drifting for about 10 years now, and like these guys said, I've been able to travel around quite a bit. You know, I'm originally from Arizona, so I've been to drift events in Arizona, and then I lived in Utah for 5-6 years or so. So I did drifting in Utah there, and then I moved to Michigan, and I did drifting in Michigan, and now I'm out here in South Carolina. So I've been around quite a bit in these 4 states. You know, that's, I think, 6 different drift organizations, 9 different tracks that I've been able to drive at. So it's pretty cool being able to, you know, I think one of my favorite things about it is doesn't matter where you go, drifting is pretty much going to be the same. You know, you get a little bit of a different local flavor, right? The different kind of atmosphere at some of the events, but for the most part, you know, drifting's drifting, man. It's all about having fun.
And drifting generally, would you say, in your opinion, is pretty universally friendly? Like everybody wants to help each other out.
Oh yeah. You know, back when I lived in Utah, I worked at a Subaru performance shop, so I had a lot of road race cars that came through there that I worked on and helped build, and it was always interesting, you know, hanging out with those guys and going to the track with these guys. You know, Zach mentioned he got a start in, you know, the front wheel drive Protege, and, you know, Subarus are kind of where I started at. So, you know, doing autocross stuff and road racing stuff with my friends and going out and seeing the kind of atmosphere was there. It was a good time, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't my thing, because things were a little bit more, I think, a little more competitive, and people are on edge versus I come out drifting, man, and like in Michigan.
And they don't want to give you any little secret or give you any advantage on them.
Yeah, it always seems so weird. Like, people were so competitive, you know, keeping their, you know, their secrets and, you know, secret chassis techniques and all this stuff. But like in Michigan, like, probably one of the coolest things is, you know, my buddy drove out from California to compete in the Pro-Am series there. And you know, he drove out in this van, in a Ford van, and the back of it was just loaded full of tools and parts. And he qualified really well, but one of the guys that qualified really high was having issues with his car. And I was helping him pit. And so while he was out there, you know, getting some more practice laps in, he pulled out like 3 different like big old totes full of parts and said, "Hey, whatever he needs, you just grab it out of there and toss it on his car. Help him get sorted out, because I'm gonna drive with him." And I was like, man, this is so cool.
Awesome.
Like you don't see that in any other motorsport.
That is one thing I've noticed. I've noticed in the drift community is I will give you a part to have a fair match, than I will to take the loss.
Even if I might need that part myself, you know, but
It's like, I'm
I
gonna
don't
make
need
sure-
it right now.
I'm gonna make sure it's fair and square. I'm gonna give you this part to make sure that we have an actual competitive
Fair match. I want to beat you on skill, not
parts. Even if I gotta leave the track and go to my storage unit, I will get you that part. I'll send somebody or something, you know.
It's cool. Like even like when I very first got started in the drifting, you know, an 8.6 like parts are really hard to find, and so I'd be, you know, I was on a college budget. You know, I was eating ramen every day, and I was just having a hard time just putting money together to get my car done. And I was so close to getting my car done for like the first drift event. And then I was missing like a couple of fittings for my oil cooler. And I was like, oh crap, man. I remember posting on the Facebook page, like, yeah, guys, like, I guess I'm not going to be able to drive. So, I'll help volunteer and, go snag cones or something. And there was like a dozen people I'd never met before. Like, what do you need? Hang on, let me go through all my spare stuff and see if we can make something that worked. And it was like,
definitely,
man, this is so cool. Total stranger is like, no, I'll give you whatever you need. I want to see you come out and drive.
I never met you, but here's all my stuff. What do you need?
Yeah, that's
awesome.
A lot of what we see is exactly what you guys are speaking of. It's there's a very friendly community, man, and you got to be blessed, man. It's like, wow, a lot of people come from different aspects of racing, and they're like, wow, this is the most friendly environment I've ever seen in my life. You come from, let's think about it, drag racing. What is that? Mostly grudge matches where people are talking trash all day. If you don't win, you don't win. If you can't push your car onto the track and at least make a pass, you ain't gonna win. So guess what? But here, like you mentioned, man, it's like whatever you need, man.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So tell us some of the things, like what kind of tracks have you been on, like versus like a lot of like skid pads, road courses and stuff like that. What are your experiences as far as drifting, as far as different venues and locations, as far as they differ?
So, when I first started driving, it was in Utah, and it was the drift scene there, like, had a really bad relationship with the racetrack. Out in Utah, there is a phenomenal world-class road course. It's one of the longest in the country and in the world. It used to be called Miller Motorsports Park. Now it's Utah Motorsports Campus. But there was like this really bad relationship with the drifters and the track. So even to get us to drive even at the track, like somebody had to put up a ton of money to rent the parking lot that they were already going to have open. They already had insurance for the day because there are other races going on. Is because way back in the day, some yahoos put on softball helmets and went and drifted on the road course during a wide open Wednesdays event, like a testing tune. So there's this really weird relationship, so it's just kind of skid pad events there. And there were like 2 or 3 different skid pads, different sizes and layouts. Cool because it was coated, so it really didn't matter how much power you had because it was coated for all the snow and stuff to make sure that it wasn't going to destroy the asphalt. So kind of lower grip and not as much tire smoke, but it was really cool because it leveled the playing field, between cars. Versus like in Michigan, there was a lot of track. Michigan is pretty similar to out here in the South. There's a lot of oval tracks. So a lot of them were like a figure 8 or something like that with big banks. And that's wild, man. Like driving on banks, going from driving in skid pads to driving on tracks with banks, like
it's a big difference.
Yeah, it's such a big difference. It pushes the car so differently, I remember like the first time I hucked it onto the bank, and I was thinking like, oh man, like I'm gonna go over the top. Like I don't have the right amount of speed, the right amount of grip, but the bank just like pushed me all the way to the inside. And I was like, oh, I can chuck it way harder and further up on the bank, But then I've also driven at like probably one of my favorite tracks I've driven at was Gingerman in Michigan. That's where they do the Grid Life Midwest is at Gingerman Raceway, and such a cool environment because you're like out in the middle of nowhere, and there's pretty much only the racetrack. There's about 30 minutes away you got hotels and stuff like that, but really there isn't a whole lot there. You're kind of like out in the woods. So cool, and the track is, the course is so fast, but it's really cool to be able to drive on a road course where you're only linking maybe 2 corners, but then you're monging down the straight or something. When you get like 4 or 5 cars just monging, it's like the coolest thing is they're all going back and forth. But it's
like slalom skiing.
Yeah, man, it's way cool.
I'm a skier from back in the day too, so.
Well, you know what it is, man. You got to fill every gap. So
yeah.
So anyway, also we've got to talk about the new flyers for MB Drifter in.
Yeah, we do have, we got our shipping flyers in, so I just wanted to say if anybody is kind of like out in different areas or whatever and we can meet up, you want to grab some and hand them out for us.
Yeah, if you know a local AutoZone or, you know, whatever that will put out some flyers on the counter for us and you want to help spread the word, we would greatly appreciate that.
Most definitely, because you think about it, as far as the driver goes, man, I like to see people watch. So you know, the more word you get out.
Drifting is a big part of drifting is being a show. You know, so we want to get out there, we want to compete, we want to have a good time, but we also want to put on a show for the spectators. So the more spectators we have, the greater the show.
You never know. You could be somebody's favorite driver. You know, the people have their favorite NASCAR driver. Why not their favorite drift driver?
Yeah, I've seen so many people that have been to their first drift event and really got autographs and really had the greatest time and just appreciated the local, you know, small drivers.
I say a good example of that was during the Monster Truck Show. You know, a lot of people came down and they're like, "Oh man, we never saw this before. That's awesome!" And a lot of little children's and kids and stuff getting autographs. And it's pretty cool, you know, you get a picture in their car and stuff like that, but...
And a lot of times in that scenario, so many of them would come to us and say, hey, the drifting was the best part of the show, you know?
I do have to say, I didn't want to say it like that, but yeah. A lot of times they did say that.
You know, there was thousands that didn't say that, but there was, you know, probably 100 or better that said, oh my God, the drifting was the best part.
And speaking of drifting at the fair, if you go over to Devin's YouTube channel at Dr. Garage, I believe you have a video of the fair.
Yeah. I've got videos.
Video and all that.
Yeah, I've got some videos from the Drift Affair event last year, as well as the Monster Truck Show. You know, it was really cool. The Monster Truck Show we drove at last year. Like, my neighbor came to me, like, afterwards, like, a couple days later, I'm, like, unloading the car from the trailer, and he's like, hey, like, I didn't know that's what you did with this car, and he came over, and I'd never met him before, and he's like, oh, yeah, I live at the house down that way. My son loved it, and I'm like, well, cool, come on out to the drift events. You know, I've always said drifting is like a spectator sport, right?
Definitely.
You know, you get more involved with it. You know, if you go out to any kind of, like, grassroots road racing or autocross stuff, all you see out there is, like, the drivers and the guys running the events, because you don't do ride-along stuff like that, but at drift events, you're out there, everybody's out there to put on a show, right? That's what it's all about, is doing something that's a lot of fun to do when you're driving, but it makes everybody else go like, oh man, that was really cool. And you know, drifting at grassroots events, you can do ride-alongs and stuff, which isn't something you normally get to do in other motorsports.
Yeah,
you know?
even at the pro level, it's hard to do ride-alongs unless you like win a special prize or something, you know. Where at our local drift events, we can take that customer service and that experience and take it to the next level where we can get those people in the car with us and experience the same amount of horizontal G-forces that we experienced.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times when people come and ride with myself, I always ask them, I say, hey, do you like roller coasters? And they're like, I love roller coasters. And I'm like, all right, besides going upside down, because hopefully you won't. Besides going upside down, this is going to be the best roller coaster ride you've ever been on.
It's the horizontal roller coaster.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you get the G-forces left and right,
side, front and back. Yep.
That's ride-alongs are like my favorite thing to do as a driver. I love introducing people to the sport. You know, when you get somebody in the car and be like, hey, you've been, ever been drifting before? They're like, nope, this is my first time doing it. I'm like, all right, well, hang on.
And then, because you especially have the your face here on the passenger side window sticker, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That is cruise by, hey.
So our next event is not going to be April 18th. So it's going to be May 2nd. So it looks like that motorsports are shut down for the moment.
Everything is taking a shutdown for the time being. With that, Myrtle Beach Speedway made an announcement that they were going to cancel the races before and after our drift event. So therefore, April 18th, we will not be having an event. I know that it is on the flyer that we just recently got made, and there's some things online that may state April 18th, but our next one is going to be May 2nd, 5-2.
Right.
So,
and we're planning for that to be our first comp now.
Yep. So that's going to be
the
first competition, and we're going to do that during the Horry County Fairs. So it's kind of cool. You have that good atmosphere. some of the best pictures and drone
Getting some cotton
videos.
candies,
Yeah.
some candied apples,
And
some
again-
roller coasters in the background.
Greasing up your competitors.
That's right.
With the
Watch out for.
like I said last
If you're
time.
competing against Zach, watch out.
Yep, I'm gonna grease some fingers up. But yeah, some of the best drone videos and stuff, videos of the track. It's just
Yeah.
cool with all like the neon lights in the background, and then we're going later into the evening.
So maybe we'll have to push for some lights and run after dark as well.
Yeah, I mean usually during the fair we run till about 9 o'clock, so we get some lights out there. They usually turn on the ring lights so we can get out there and
We'll do our competition during the day, obviously, to get full.
and then
light
maybe we
everything.
could run fun runs into the night.
Yeah, do
This is-
like maybe till 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, maybe we could set up some kind of additional course. So, we run like 2 courses during the day or something like that. We could set up an additional course to run at night. Maybe, I don't know, maybe come off the oval into the entry or something like that.
Yeah, that was
definitely.
fun last time.
Yeah.
I mean, it slowed the lap times down, which is not normally a huge thing for us, but it took a little bit longer for each run. But oh my God, the feedback was amazing. People freaking loved it.
Or even do something like for the monster truck shows, so that way people could come up into the stands and kind of get a close up look or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, we'll have to figure it out, but having it during the fair, just with all the neons in the backgrounds, and then not only that, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go out here and ride some rides, get some fair food,
Get some cotton
hang out,
candy,
get head butted by
deep
a goat
fried
or something.
everything.
It's fun because it's a nice relaxing atmosphere, and plus too, you kind of get that exposure that a lot of people don't see. Like people will come to the fair and have no idea about drifting, and then next
And they've
thing
been
you know,
hearing car noises in the background. But
yeah,
what's
they go
that
and
all about?
Come check that out. Next thing you know, they're asking you about what more about it or whatever, and you can kind of develop friendships and stuff. Because again, that's what drifting is about. Is I've developed so many friendships, which I'm sure you guys have as well. Just hey man, you guys did this out here. Oh, would you come check us out? And then they come to the events, and next thing you know, your buddies, you're giving their kids rides.
Yeah,
them
not only
rides,
that,
their wife
too.
ride, and just kind of establish a friendship and stuff like that, and just have a good time.
All of us want to be drift famous too. So every fan you
A little
build
bit, yeah.
on your social media sites, at the fair, you're going to be introduced to people that would never come to our drift events.
I do agree with that.
This is your
yes.
opportunity to build a fan base if you have any interest in that, because these
True that.
people are coming here. They want to see the drifting. They probably just came for cotton candy and turned upside down, but they might come into this event and see your drifting and love your car and say, I've got to be a fan of yours. I love your livery. I love your style. If you give me a ride along, I would love you even more.
Oh, yeah.
So you're out here, you've got the opportunity to build extra fan base if that's any part of your mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get bit by a swan or a goat outside, you get the drift bug inside. You get bit by the drifting. It's a twofer.
Heck yeah.
That was the funniest thing I could think of.
So the golden nuggets outside and
Yeah.
drift bug inside.
You get bit twice.
We also, I guess we got to talk about Hyperfest.
Yeah, Hyperfest, as we've seen, that got rescheduled to, when did it get rescheduled?
July
to?
31st.
Yep.
That weekend, the last day of July, starts that weekend.
So with that, I heard our buddy Devin over here was trying to get a driver pass. Some people have things going on and they have to sell the driver's pass. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. I've got some feelers out there. I still got to figure out what's going on. Me and a bunch of my buddies, drift buddies from Michigan, we're planning a trip to Ebisu this year. So we're
That's
all
awesome.
super excited to do that, and it was going to be in May, but everything has gotten screwed up with travel and stuff. So I got to figure out when that's going to be, and then I can see if I can make the Hyperfest. Because I'm looking at it going like, man, that looks like so much fun. I've already missed out on some seat time this year because I've been building my car. So I'm like, okay, now like I got to drive as much as I can, and driving a VIR, man, that just looks like so much fun.
Oh my God.
I mean, if you were to go to Japan, I don't think anybody would blame you.
Ebisu over VIR, Ebisu over
Yeah.
Hyperfest, like, yeah, I mean,
VIR is going to always be there. So.
yeah, maybe next year if we go to Ebisu during that same time, but we'll kind of see. I've got a few people that I've been talking to, I think it just kind of depends on what Hyperfest is going to do with passes, if they're going to be transferable or not, and then kind of figure out what people want. But I think it'd be a lot of
because
fun.
Japan obviously would trump anything.
Yeah.
But VIR, I will say that I've drifted it. Zach's been there before. My wife Christy's been there before.
I've never driven it. Super nervous.
Yeah. There's a lot of elevation change, but it is a beautiful place. So, yeah, the track layout is amazing. There's an inner track, there's an outer track. So the inner track they use for drifting, and then the outer track they're doing road course stuff all the time.
Gotcha, that's cool. I actually, earlier today I downloaded it so I can play it on my Assetto Corsa simulator at home, so I can see what it's like and kind of decide, like, okay, how high a priority
The downhill
should this be.
section is a little tough, but it's super fun though. So,
And that's the beauty of the
And then
simulator.
the
I can wreck
whole-
the car and it doesn't matter.
the whole rest of the track.
I've been seeing on the iNASCAR thing. It doesn't even matter. They just smash it. It's like that one video. He's like, he drove through that car.
That's not happening.
Yeah, May 16th, and
May
we'll be back
16th.
to July 31st, which also
Ties into our other
it ties into our schedule because we have. I'm sorry, I keep getting back and forth with the mic
you're
here,
good.
but so with the May 2nd event, we're going to have a July 4th event, which is going to be a comp. So July 4th, Myrtle Beach Speedway, and then after that, July 31st. Followed by our August 8th event.
So
it's gonna be
July
kinda like
31st is
weekend,
going to be
weekend.
Hyperfest.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy drift
So if
weekend
you
for
can
us.
make that, that'd be great. We'd love to see everybody there. And then for the very next weekend, we're scheduled for an event on August 8th.
For those of you guys that are curious, our events, our entry fees, we got spectators are $10. Competition, if you pre-register, is $100, $120 day of event. For our practice events, it's going to be $80 pre-register and $100 day of event. So we're talking about the events, so I just want to kind of throw the prices out there for everybody to kind of see what's up.
Just be aware.
Yeah,
So-
be aware.
So celebrate the 4th of July at the Myrtle Beach Speedway. Come drive at the competition or come watch the drifting, come catch some ride-alongs. And then we've got July 31st to August, what's August 1st? How long is Hyperfest?
3 days.
3 days.
3 days, yep.
So July 31st to August 2nd is Hyperfest at VIR. And
And then
then
the following weekend, yep.
On Saturday.
on Saturday, then we're back at the Myrtle Beach Speedway.
Woo!
August
So
8th.
if you're going to Hyperfest, you got a week to work on your car before MB Drift.
Better be ready.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, with
What
that,
you gonna do?
speaking of July 4th, some of the best fireworks I've ever seen was over the ocean, off the end of the pier.
Yeah.
So that'd be a cool thing. Come to the July 4th event. Come to the beach. Watch the fireworks over the beach.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
There
sell
was
it.
some potential to have July 4th at the track with fireworks. So
Oh.
we can do it there at dusk. If you want to go
I mean, I'm sure
to
if
the
we-
beach after or whatever.
Sure, if we went in the bleachers, you could probably see them from the beach as well.
It's so cool to be able to see the fireworks over the ocean. This is the first place I lived where it's been on the coast, so it's like, the first year we moved here, we went out to, to the inlet to go, Merle's Inlet
nice
to go
place,
watch.
yeah.
Awesome. Just super cool because they're just sending them off right there in front of your face. But when they're launching them off the pier too, it's just amazing. So that's a good time to come down to Myrtle Beach for the 4th of July. And if we can do some fireworks at the track too, yeah, that'd be
Even
sweet.
better.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say strap them to your car, but I might.
Not suggesting it at all.
Roof only. There you go.
So anyway, I think it's time to wrap things up. We appreciate everyone listening. Marshall from MB Drift.
Zach from MB Drift.
Devin from Dr. Garage.
Woo!
See you
Yeah.
next time.
Stay safe out there, folks.
Woo!